So what are the next or other thrust vectoring control aircraft that we actually might see in the game? There are multiple ones that can be added, but to be honest, we are kind of far from it. We don't know yet, but when. But eventually we will see other versions, other aircraft in general that can have it. But like I said, in a general sense, it will take a little bit of time, I think. So what are those aircraft that we might see? I included 6 aircraft in this list, and obviously I basically took out any experimental aircraft apart from one technology demonstrator that is a fully utilizable aircraft for combat that I think might actually be added, and I will leave that at the end of the video, okay? But let's start with the Americans. The Americans basically have only one aircraft. Of course, I'm not gonna include something like an F-35 because, of course, the F-35C can do like technically a thrust vectoring, but it's for VTOL. I'm not gonna account to that as proper TVC, you know. I'm really talking about aircraft that can do the same as the Su-30SM, right? Basically use the thrust vectoring to do more maneuvers. Although technically you could in the F-35, but you know what I mean, right? So with the Americans, I think the only one and only aircraft that can be added with this for now is the F-22 Raptor. Yes, the 5th generation jet that would basically be the best aircraft in the game, depending on when it's added. And even, you know, regardless of that, to be honest, it is going to be one of the best aircraft in the game and one of the best ever aircraft to be added. You know, it is a 5th generation stealth as a, you know, I don't need to explain every single thing about the F-22, but indeed the F-22 uses a 2-dimensional, you know, thrust vectoring to go upwards and downwards, right? Which helps a lot to do super maneuverability stuff, right? It's an aircraft that would be, like I said, one of the best in the game, and with that, one of the most maneuverable as well, right? Yes, there are other American aircraft that, you know, could take this, but they're all prototypes more or less, you know, so, or experimental aircraft. So there are versions of the F-15, of other aircraft like the F-18, the F-16, but to be honest, like I said, I'm talking about production aircraft or combat capable aircraft, you know, so the F-22 probably is going to be the main one. I wouldn't doubt that we will see other versions, other aircraft, you know, experimental aircraft, prototypes and whatnot, but just decided to not include in the list because I think GAIJIN will focus on production aircraft for now, right? The second one is the J-20A for the Chinese. Yes, the J-20A is still in its prototype phase, I think. It's really hard to find information about it, so I don't know if you already saw like a full production model. Chinese are very fast on their, you know, J-20 building numbers, so I honestly don't know exactly how many of them they have or how far in the service cycle it is. The first prototype flew in 2022 if I'm not mistaken, but basically it is going to get into service very soon, and it is basically the evolution of the J-20, right? Initially it was called the J-20B, but according to most sources, the Chinese called them the A variant, right? The main thing about this is that obviously it is 5th generation jet, somewhat stealth, you know, modern radars, modern missiles, everything that you want from a 5th generation jet. It's more of an interceptor than anything else, but still, it can do well in dogfights, depending on the target that you are going to be fighting against. This is what we have from limited information, right? But the main thing here is that the A variant actually has the WS-15 engines, which use TVC, right? Of course, this is far into the future, the F-22 and the J-20, because they are 5th generation jets. So, for example, for the J-20A, we will see the normal J-20 being added first, and then later an A variant with thrust vectoring, right? In the far, far future. So, don't expect these 2 aircraft to come right now, but they might come, so eventually. So we need to wait and see, right? Then we go for the UK. Yes, the UK can have one aircraft if they want to add the Indian Air Force or more Indian Air Force aircraft. The Su-30 MKI, which is pretty much an export model of the SM, the Su-30 SM. Well, technically, the SM is basically a domestic version of the MKI, right? Because the MKI came first, but it is going to be very similar to the Su-30 SM. It can have some upgrades and some weird things, like for example, initially the RWR was very old, but still. You can use some interesting Indian missiles like the Astra. So yeah, it could be a very interesting vehicle to add to the UK. It would have thrust vectoring, will have the same engines as the SM, so you can expect the same level of performance, but just different, weapons, avionics, stuff like that, right? So I don't know if it's gonna ever be added, but it could in theory be added, right? The next one would be the Su-30 SM2. Yes, the Russians can have an upgraded model of the Su-30 SM. It would be basically the same aircraft, but with two main differences. There are other minor ones, but these are the two ones. The radar is the Ibis one from the Su-35, and the engines are completely new ones, the AL-41 from the Su-35 as well. So it's a much better aircraft, and it would be a step up, especially in the engine performance compared to the original Su-30 SM that we have in the game, right? But it is probably going to be one of the next Russian aircraft that we see, and it might even be the next TVC aircraft that we get in the game, since it's basically the same as the Su-30 SM, but upgraded to be able to do better the missions that it is able to do, right? So more power, more radar, more better missiles, stuff like that. Another Russian aircraft that we might see in a soonish kind of future, depending on how GAIJIN want to do that, it is the Su-35, of course. The Su-35 would be using the technology from the Su-30, like I said. So of course it has TVC, it has much better engines, it has the Ibis radar. So overall, it's much better than the Su-30 SM that we have right now. Doesn't have the extra second seat or the extra, pilot there, and it doesn't have the canards, but it is still going to be able to do the same type of maneuver the Su-30 SM does, with much better engine and a much better radar, just like the Su-30 SM. Think that the Su-35 and the Su-35 SM2, they are basically almost the same aircraft in terms of capabilities, one with a two-seater and one one-seater. It's kind of like that, right? So these two are probably the ones that we're gonna see very likely soon. And when I talk about soon, it's like this year maybe, or something like that. Maybe max next year we will see these aircraft, and it will be, like I said, an Su-30 SM, but better radar, better weapons, better engine, okay? But the same kind of idea. Of course, I have to include the 5th generation Russian jet, the Su-57. These aircraft obviously would have thrust vectoring, and yeah, it would be the next step up for the game, when 5th generations start to actually be added. I have a feeling that when these types of things happen in the very far away future, we'll probably see one patch receiving the Su-57 J20 and F-22 in the same patch, or something like that. I would imagine, right? Or the F-35 maybe, I don't know. But we will probably see a 5th generation patch when it comes to the time to have that, right? But yeah, Su-57 has a radar, electronic scanner array radar, the super maneuverability, TVC, 5th generation, less stealthy than the others, but still somewhat stealthy features are used, and it's just an aircraft that it's gonna be one of the most maneuverable aircraft in the game as well, right? And the last one, like I said, this is the demo one, the demonstrator. This is like the one that it's the least likely to come, but I have a feeling that they might add this thing as an event vehicle or something like that, and it would be the Terminator or the Su-37. This is basically the Su-27's prototype to be the Su-35, kinda, so the technology used in the Su-37 would be used later in the Su-35. It is basically using everything the Russians had to make this aircraft crazy, so the most modern radars we had at that time, the bars, had the rear-facing radar, which would be crazy to use, canards, we would have thrust vectoring, very strong engines. So at that time, of course, the Su-35 is much more modern, much better systems overall because of that. But Su-37 kind of began that. So it would be a crazy, crazy good aircraft. And I have a feeling that it might add this thing eventually as like a premium or something crazy like that, or maybe even as a taxi vehicle, but it would be a crazy aircraft to not add. It is like the ultimate Su-30, like 27 type. So yeah, but basically this is it, guys. These are the... It's actually 7 aircraft. I thought it was 6. It's actually 7 aircraft that will probably be the next thrust vectoring control aircraft to be added to the game, right? Let me know in the comments if I forgot any. I know there's the Vista, there's the, you know, the F-18, what is the name? Active, no, Harv. The F-15 is the active, right? But these are all experimental aircraft. I don't know if they're gonna add it, probably not. There's the Mitsubishi X2, for example. There's multiple experimental vehicles, the MiG-29, OVT, multiple vehicles, but I have a feeling that they will stick to production aircraft for the most part, okay? So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know in the comments if I forgot any, and I see you guys. Bye.